Are you a man above the age of 18? Do you live in Arizona? Have you joined your local criminal hunting posse? Because it is actually required by law that men in Arizona join a local criminal hunting posse. I'm quoting straight from the compiled laws of the territory of Arizona from 1864 through 1871. Every male person above 18 years of age who shall neglect or refuse to join the posse comitatus, that would be citizens' law enforcement committees, by neglecting or refusing to aid and assist in taking or arresting any person shall be fined in any sum not less than $50 nor more than $1,000. So join that posse comitatus or fork over maybe as much as $1,000. Here's another law from that same compendium on the sale of liquor to indigenous people. Any person who has been guilty of selling or giving spirituous liquor to any Indian within this territory shall be fined for the first offense $25. Totally racist, totally outdated. But again, that is Arizona law circa 1864. And here's another one on animal theft. Every person who shall brand or deface the mark or brand of any horse, mare, colt, jack, gentle, mule, sheep, goat, hog, shoat, or pig that is not his or her own property shall be punished by imprisonment in the territorial prison for a term not less than 1 year nor more than 5 years. Now, if you were wondering, a shoat is like a preteen pig. And do not deface its brand, or you might find yourself in the Arizona clink for up to 5 years. Those were the laws of the land in Arizona in the mid to late 1800s. At the time, Arizona was not yet a state. It would not become one for another 5 decades. But it was an important American territory. In 1862, the Confederacy and the Union fought for control of Arizona, and the Union won at the height of the Civil War, when states and territories like Arizona looked something like this: dirt roads with horse-drawn buggies, and only white men had the right to vote. In 1864, slavery was not yet abolished, and the question of whether the United States would remain united and free was being answered in a war that wouldn't end until 1865 and would result in the deaths of more than 600,000 Americans, 2/3 of whom died from infectious diseases, not artillery fire. And that's because in the 1860s, doctors were still figuring out what germs were. It was not yet common practice for doctors to wash their hands before surgery or when delivering a baby. 1864 was before doctors knew how reproduction worked on a cellular level, with the eggs and the sperm. And it was under those conditions, where basic reproduction was still a mystery, where basic medical protocols were not yet in place, and all men had to be part of something called a posse comitatus. It was under those conditions in 1864 that legislators in the Arizona territory passed a near total ban on abortion, punishing anyone who performed an abortion with up to 5 years in prison. Today, Arizona's Supreme Court upheld that 160-year-old law. The court determined that thanks to the Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, that Civil War-era abortion ban is still in effect. The decision overturned Arizona's already restrictive 15-week abortion ban from the year 2022, and it replaced it with that law from the antebellum period. After Dobbs, abortion advocates and leaders said the Supreme Court ruling had set the country back 50 years to the days before Roe was decided in 1973. But in reality, states like Arizona have been set back more than 160 years to the days before women could vote and before America outlawed slavery. In the wake of the Arizona court's ruling, the state's top Democratic elected officials swiftly condemned this decision.
It is a dark day in Arizona. The near total Civil War era ban that continues to hang over our heads only serves to create more chaos for women and doctors in our state.
Let me be completely clear. As long as I am Attorney General of the state of Arizona, no woman or doctor will be prosecuted under this draconian law.
This is going to criminalize doctors for doing their jobs, and it's going to have a devastating effect on the health and freedom of women in Arizona.
So now the question is, what happens next? The implementation of this law will be delayed as the decision is appealed. But depending on the outcome of that appeal, pregnant women face a harsh new reality in the South, because it is not just the women of Arizona here. It is women seeking abortion access in places like Texas, women who were already traveling to Arizona to get that abortion care. And now an entire region of this country could be going dark. 160 years after the Civil War, we are witnessing a resurgent confederacy of anti-abortion states. In Arizona, choice advocates are already working to ensure that voters get a chance to decide this November on a ballot initiative that would enshrine the right to an abortion in the state constitution. Those advocates have already collected 500,000 signatures, which is 120,000 more than they need to get abortion on the ballot. And now that vote will be more critical than ever. Republicans have just put the future of abortion access on the line in a critical swing state in an election year.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.